Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Great show in line today. This top producer has a vast experience in corporate America. Prior to becoming a top producing real estate agent, she has only been an agent for a short of 3 years, but she has been Rookie of the Year, has won the Keller Williams Culture Award and Gold Award. I'll find out what that is. She has capped each of her 3 years, most recently in just 1.5 months. She's part of the office's Agent Leadership Council. 2023, she serviced 51 families for nearly $20 million in sales volume. Let's welcome the Retail Society President, Kari Carpenter, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And, I see the social media. I see your, obviously Jack's Real Producers recognize you as someone I want to look into to have come on, and because they generally are doing well and have a story. But the more I, dug into your background, the more I was like, this is going to be really good, because I think a lot of agents are going to be able to resonate with you because you're coming from that corporate America thing. I know we have a lot of really good agents that are in their 20s, that this is their first career, and good for them. But for most of us, we did something else before.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about the Gold Award, since that was what is the Keller Williams Gold Award?
So that is when you hit a certain tier of volume. So we're going to have our next award ceremony next week. So we'll find out what that award is. But so I don't know what that is for 2023, but in 2022.
So it's like a certain percentage, and that's where they cut up the line.
Correct. So you're a certain volume percentage. So over 5 million, you receive the Gold Award. And so I had done right at about 8 million in 2022. So received the Gold Award and also the Culture Award, which was just fantastic, because one thing that I love is that I give back, and I love that real estate has that opportunity. You really can feel like you're living on an island in real estate, but if you give into the culture and you love helping other newer agents, like you said, I came from corporate America, so being on big calls with CEOs, being in front of large groups, I absolutely love and thrive. Right. And so I want to help others who have that
Are you
shyness.
wearing wearing that Keller Williams? Is that what that sweater is? Is that your Keller Williams look?
I think so. I didn't even think of that, but yes.
Well, we definitely need to find out what kind of coffee you drink in the morning, though.
So funny story, I don't even drink coffee. My dad always says, if we could just figure out what energy you have and bottle it up, we'd be billionaires.
Exactly. So you when we were talking last night through instant messages, you messaged the Mustang News. So you were born and raised here in the Mandarin area?
Yep, born and raised here in Jacksonville, Florida. Went to Loretto Elementary, Mandarin Middle, and Mandarin High School. Go Mustangs! The farthest I've gone is the University of Florida for college. My dad was a Gator, so my heart always wanted to be a Gator grad, and I'm one of 4 sisters, so my twin sister went to UNF here. She's incredible, and I always just wanted to be that Gator. So leaving the home here in Jacksonville and going to Gainesville was fantastic, but always knew
just
my
far
home,
enough away.
Just far enough away. Exactly.
The Warrington College of Business at University of Florida. What is young Keri thinking about, 19, 20, 21 years old, of what she visualized for a career? What are the type of things that you thought you wanted to do?
I love managing and helping people grow. So I always wanted to be in a role where I have people that I can help. My husband always says that I give, and that's why real estate is ideal for me, because everywhere I've gone, when I first started in management at Florida, I fell into the business school and just loved it. I thrived. I went and met all the teachers. I was that student that would go to class so I could meet everybody there, even though 90% of the classes were virtual, and my parents were like, we're paying for a dorm and you're 90% virtual. I go, no, I go into the classes, because you meet so many more people. And by doing that, I met the folks in the Retail Society, and that really took off for me. It was a it was this group that helps students grow their resumes, what to wear for success on interviews. We would do mock interviews, and I ended up being the Retail Society president at the University of Florida and loved it because we got to help with the career fairs where we brought retailers to the school. We educated the students on what to put on their resumes. Like I said, helping them.
These are all things that you do in corporate America. Yes. I think one of the things, in one of the questions I'll ask you, I know I learned through corporate training is what's the proper way to interview somebody?
Yes.
What are the things you're looking for, or obviously the type of questions that you need to ask to get an answer to see if obviously they're legit, right? Exactly. Everyone says, "Oh, I did great in sales." Well, explain to me, or explain to me a situation where you overcame, or whatever. Those types of things. So vitally important. So you're learning that at such a young. Even before you've entered into the workplace is huge and hugely valuable. I like the point where you said showing up for class.
Yes.
I think where I went, you weren't allowed to not show up to class. Okay. Otherwise you were confined for the weekend. So, I think that's so important. And I see it now, obviously you went to University of Florida, very large institute. I mean, the average standard basic English class, I imagine, probably had a couple hundred people in it.
Thousands. It could have been thousands.
So many online. You've got the what do you call them? The professor's assistant. A lot of times, probably instructing, if not grading the papers and that sort of thing. And you're not really versus the smaller school. So I've heard recently people got disappointed because they didn't get into University of Florida. Well, that might be a blessing for your child, to go to a smaller school and actually go to class.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're so big. And it can be intimidating for someone who is just, I guess I can walk into any room and kind of introduce myself to anybody. But for someone who's not as comfortable doing that, that was something I wanted to help with.
Right.
So I was that person who, when I was going into the lunchroom, I always wanted to sit with someone new and meet new people and see how I could help them be more comfortable.
Where did you get that mindset? Is that just like your family's all like that? Or
yes. So my dad, he has always been in sales. Every weekend we grew up fishing and going out on the boat, so we'd always be talking as a family. We always sat down at the dinner table as a family. We don't ever turn on the TV as our family. So we still to this day will sit down and just everyone talk and have the kids all running around. So it's a little bit more chaotic now than it was with just us. Right. But it's
conversing with adults.
Yes.
You're conversing with your parents, and then their friends, or you are conversing with adults. I think somebody actually mentioned it to me, which is a thing that I have too. That they were out to dinner and they had someone else's child with them, but they're not. They're 10, 12 years old or whatever, middle school age. And the waiter came over and they're like, they didn't want to talk to the waiter and give them what they wanted to eat. Yeah, that's how bashful they was.
Oh.
And obviously they picked up on, I'm like, yeah, I mean, we almost make our kids like talk to, what do you want to tell them what you want?
Absolutely.
And, type of thing and have that interaction. That's very important.
Absolutely.
So you actually get, if I saw correctly, you get an internship with Target.
Yes.
Yes. How did that come about? And then you spent some time with Target and moved up in some positions.
I did.
What are some of the things you use today that you took from the Target time?
So much. So at Target, you have folks from their first job working there to folks who are just working there for fun and retirement for a couple days a week. So as a college kid walking into this atmosphere where I could be managing anywhere from 20 people at a time to 150 people at a time. Not only do you have to multitask, be able to be in a million different directions at once, and focus on making sure you're listening to what the people need. That is what made me really successful in real estate and retail, is you are thrown 1,000 different things all at once, and you cannot let any of them not be a priority. And so throughout the day, I would always say, wait, how is it already this time of day? How did we already let 12 hours go by?
Right.
When I feel like it just started.
Right.
When you're having fun and you're working with so many different people, from brain guiding the building and having to change out 20 different rows of the hard lines, or getting in 4 trucks in one morning and challenging the team to let me throw the truck in my heels to see how fast I could go. Like motivation and staying positive. They always laughed because I'd wear wedges, so you'd hear me coming, click, 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 everywhere I'd go around the store. And it just made people smile. Right. So, in our team huddles, I always tried to make everyone smile, because if you're having a good day, you're going to have a good shift, no matter how crazy things can be. And in retail, right. I mean, we have some crazy things happen in retail. So, you want to keep everybody positive. You want to keep everybody motivated. And that's what I learned the most, is how to change your style of delivery, and how to not talk to the 15-year-olds the same way you do to someone who's retired.
Almost on the turn of a dime, because you could be down this section over here, this department, and you get a call, you got to go over there, and now you got to deal with, you got the 50-year-old over here working part-time, and you got the teenager over here who is a weekender or whatever, like that.
Right, yeah. Right. And so there's so many different motivations. Everybody is motivated differently, and I used to say to everybody, I would say, no matter how you got here, whether you walked here, you biked here, you took the bus, or you drove your car, or a scooter, which I had in college, and my parents never knew about until I got home from college. That's a whole different story. But however you got to work today, leave it out there. And let's focus on what we're doing right now, how we can make today a great day.
All right. So the personal development question here, because, obviously I'm experiencing this high energy thing coming across here. Because, like you said, it's, when you're managing, whether it's 20 or 150 mm-hmm. is just, exponentially more issues, or yes. more personalities, more problems. And these people are bringing those things, like any workplace. They might have issues at home, and they come in and they bring them with them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a switch where they can just drop it at the door type of thing, and they bring it with you. What do you, was it stuff that you picked up at school? Did you have a mentor, or did you think this kind of mindset came naturally to you to handle these things?
I really think it came from my dad, mm-hmm. who we listened to a lot of the stories that he would coach his employees, and he was a district sales manager, so he always had many employees underneath him. And so I think it came from both the fact that he would tell us the stories, whether the highs, the lows, the mm-hmm. crazies, the good, the bad, and he would ask us our opinion. What would you have done? And those could have started at 10 years old. Mm-hmm. We would hear these stories, and I would be like, well, Dad, this is what I would do. And I'm sure my answers changed from 10 to 15 to 20, things like that. Yeah. And, but innately, my dad also has that same personality. My mom has so much energy and is organized too. So we kind of got the best of both worlds, mm-hmm. I think, in all of us. And he's just always had the sales background and knew how to be home for us, and had to travel so much and go to all the leadership conferences. And whenever he'd come back from those, we'd read the books together. We'd read the pamphlets that he got and the trainings. And, now we have so many different type of personality assessments, like the DISC theory, the strengths finders, all of those. Right. And so we'd go over those. And at young ages, I've done all of those. And I've done them through my careers. And it's fun.
They've gotten better.
They have, yes.
20 years ago, I don't think they were that good.
Right.
Yeah. They're a lot better today. And mm-hmm. I think because I've had an experience where this company, and I took one of the, I always just call them personality tests, right? They're like, oh, we're not, my buddy worked for him and referred me in. He found, well, they didn't hire you because they didn't like the score you got on the personality test. Well, then they let then as time went by, what they started finding out is a lot of the,
it's not my phone.
That is my phone. I put it on Do Not Disturb, but I think it's because it's my wife that went through.
That's important.
Yeah. that when they weren't able to hire these good people being referred in. So when the executives took it, and he failed it too. So he wouldn't have gotten hired if he wasn't already hired, right? So obviously that wasn't working. And I know you did some HR work, if I saw in your thing, and being involved in. So you go from Target, you did some time Victoria's Secrets, and then you get into logistics. So a lot of big names, ABF, right?
Yes.
They're nationally known and that so forth. What are some other the corporate training things that you took through this entire, roughly almost 15 years, right? That you've took that even added to what your dad had already planted with you?
Absolutely. So hands down, the best training I've ever had has been at ABF Freight. And they are called ArcBest as well. And so I went to corporate in Arkansas, and we did what's called right selling. And it was absolutely so impactful, because just as those situations where you teach students how to answer questions in an interview, you know how they say the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. Make sure you get through the 4 of those. Right selling was so impactful, because what you're trying to figure out through this process is really understanding what the influence is and what your customer is driven from. Everybody sees hundreds of salespeople. So when they see someone walk in the door, whether I'm at a huge warehouse or I'm in a mom and pop awesome small business and I'm trying to sell our services, the first thing they want to do is say, leave. I don't got time for you. But when you really figure out what they need, and that is what right selling taught me, is, you do the research, you do the investigation, and as you're doing these investigation questions, in your head, you are pinpointing future questions to ask. And as you're asking these questions, they are telling you where they are having issues along the way. And they don't even realize it. And you're able to think in your brain, I have a puzzle piece that can fit that issue that you're
They only know what they don't know what they don't know.
Correct.
And don't know that there's someone actually out here that provides that service. Or, hey, I'd love to be able to, we were talking about the GPS on the phone and knowing where all our family members are at, that type of thing. And some people don't know that these trucks, and because there was shipping, right, that these trucks have GPS trackers in them, and they know exactly where that truck is at all time, or where your freight might be.
Bingo.
If you didn't know that, didn't know to ask for it, didn't know you needed it, now you're offering that, and adds value.
Exactly. And there are so many more, a lot of people think in logistics, it's just A to B. It's not. In the logistics world, say, for example, if it's one pallet of freight moving from here, Jacksonville, Florida, to New York, it could hit 4 or 5 different DCs. It could touch many different trailers. It could be all over. So the point of logistics and all the systems that we have is to make it as economical and as easy to get to point A to point B without any damage, and making sure that your customers get there on time.
Because every time you have to move that thing, you could damage it.
Bingo. And so what we, when I was selling my services in logistics, it wasn't just, okay, so, I want all your business. No, not every company is going to be successful in every lane. But we have what you need to help this problem child lane that you have of getting it from here to the West Coast. Or, we have direct trucks that are going to go all the way there without stopping. All
right, so let's bring this full swing around to real estate. You're finding their pain point.
Yes.
Obviously, and how you can solve it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm going to give you that interview question. Give me a situation whenever in the last 3 years, a customer where this really shined of what we're talking about here, finding their pain points. Because we know a lot of people come to the area. Oh, I don't want to live in a CDD. I don't want to live in an HOA, or they don't want to live in this type of community, but end up buying in that type of community because everything else is what they want.
So the first thing I make sure I do, I sit down with every single one of my customers. Every single one, whether they are my best friends or someone I'm just meeting. The reason I do that is because a lot of times we're not talking on the best friend realm when we're talking about real estate. So I make them realize this is a business for me and you are my priority. So we sit down, we talk about their wants, their needs, and what that mortgage goal is going to be. So if they're a first-time home buyer and they say they only want to spend $1,800 a month, I break it down for them. I say, okay, that CDD community or the HOA community is going to have this on top of your monthly mortgage. So here is where we need to look. And I keep them on that path. I could tell you.
My question is always when they tell me what the payment is, I said, is that before taxes and insurance?
Right, before taxes and insurance, before your other, before the
I know the answer, but I just it's a little gut check.
Yes. And you know what's important is, so I had a customer, we probably saw 20 homes. And it's their first home. They had a great budget. It wasn't, the budget was not the issue. It was, they're both very busy people in the healthcare industry, and they didn't have the time to redo a lot. And so, every showing that I went to with them, we'd spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half in the home because we'd really walk the home. We'd walk it as if it was going to be their home. And, they felt so just disappointed at one point because there was a multiple offer situation. We put in a backup offer because their offer was not accepted. Then I get a call from the listing agent because I keep in touch with I give calls to listing agents before we show the properties. I give them a call.
All right, you're giving out all your secrets here, so I'm going to have to write down some notes to circle back.
Okay, perfect.
I like the one thing you said. We walked into every house like it was theirs.
Correct.
So I'm going to write that down. We're going to go back to that.
Excellent,
okay, go ahead.
Excellent. And so we finally found the house that both of them walk in and it is theirs. I mean, you could just see the smiles radiate off their faces. They both FaceTime their families. They both were so excited. And it was where they wanted to be. It was the size home. It had a pool. It had everything they wanted. So I kept in touch with the listing agent because there were 2 offers in front of us. And everyone always gets so discouraged because they think, why would I put in a backup offer if these 2 offers in front of me are going to win? And I said, we got to stay positive. We got to stay positive. And so I had spoken with the listing agent multiple times, and she called and let me know the first offer fell through. And the second offer didn't know if they were going to want to put an offer in again. Like they were the second backup.
So they had time to think about it.
Exactly. And I said, please call me as soon as you know.
Right.
I did not let the buyers know because I didn't want to get their hopes up or anything right away. But not even an hour later, she calls me and says, guess what? The second offer fell through. Something changed on their side. Are your buyers still excited and want to move forward? Because the sellers really want to accept their offer. And I said, oh my gosh, I can't wait to call them. This is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for them. I had to calm myself down because I knew they were going to be thrilled. So I text them and I said, hey, you guys, can you talk this afternoon? What time are you available? And they both got off by 7. It was like 3 hours of waiting.
You should have just said, we need to talk right now.
I know.
Walk out.
If they weren't in the hospitals, it'd be a different story. So right on the dot at 7, I called both of them, and they're at home, and I said, hey, you guys, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Because we had seen another house, found out that they couldn't put a pool in the backyard because it had an easement. So I started with that.
Right.
I was like, I have some bad news, I want to tell you that. And they were like, wait, so what's the good news? And I said, your backup offer got accepted on your dream home. And I kid you not, I could hear like the screams and the shouts and then the tears. I could just feel it on the phone. Right. And then they stopped and they go, we thought you were going to fire us as buyers. I said, are you kidding me? You're family. You're family. This isn't just a business to buy you a house.
Right.
This is a business.
You must have fired a buyer at some point. You've dealt with. Have you fired a buyer yet? You haven't fired a buyer yet? Okay.
No, not at all. But they were just so thrilled, and it cracked me up that they thought I was firing, like that I was going to fire them as buyers. I said, are you kidding me? This is what I work so hard for.
Well, since you're talking about the backup offers, I mean, I'm seeing it because my wife's an agent. I've seen what she's dealing. She did last weekend, going through and actually, now the backup offer is actually on the table.
Oh, yes.
Because the first offer, right, is always cash, and that's not a slam dunk.
Right.
These cash buyers can be flaky.
Right.
You have to be putting backup offers in, or insist that you want to be the backup offer.
Absolutely.
For a couple reasons. The other people have looked at it, have moved on.
Yes.
And if it's 3-4 a week later, and the first guy drops out, the backup offer is ready to just keep going, and the seller's like, they're already in their head going, well, we're closing. They're already moved out of the house.
Exactly.
In their mind. Right. And
Right.
they don't want to go, well, let's put it back on the market and see if we get something else. Let's just take the backup offer and go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why communication is so critical in this business. You know, I always pick up my phone, or I send a text saying I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? Then when that happens, I can find out if it's a spam call or someone actually calling me too. So it works out really good. But it's so critical now as agents that we pick up the phone, we call the other agent on the other side, we find out what's going on, where they're at. You know, I love when customers call me and say, or agents call me and they say, hey, how far are you in the sale of this property? I've got a buyer who's super interested. Absolutely. Show it. We're still in inspections. You never know what can happen. So I'd love for your buyer to get in and see it.
Drill down on that a little bit, because I hear stories. My wife's an agent, so I hear her situations directly, and then obviously talking to agents all the time on the show. There's agents that will submit an offer and never even make a phone call to make sure you received it.
Doesn't it blow your mind?
It kills me.
I'm shocked. I'm speechless, and I'm never speechless. So it's true, though. You know, when you get an offer in and you've never heard from that person, or you go through and you're like, they didn't even show the property. Where did they come from? So then I pick up the phone and I call them. Hey, who are you? Oh, hey, I'm the agent that just put in an offer. I go, I know, but did your buyer see it? Oh, they're coming in town this weekend. They just wanted to put an offer right ahead so that, we could go ahead and lock it down. Do they like the house? Are you seeing other houses?
Go ahead and lock it down.
Y'all. We have to think respectfully of the time of sellers too.
Yeah.
And so I have always been an over communicator. I believe in this business, you cannot over communicate. You've got to let people know what you're doing, where you're at. Every listing agent knows if I'm going to put in an offer to them.
Do you like agent to agent communication? If you're representing a buyer, do you actually call the listing agent even before you submit the offer to kind of feel out where's the seller at? Tell us how you break down that conversation.
Yes.
What you try to get out of it.
So first I call them usually when I set up a showing. I'll already kind of have a feel of how the buyers feel about the property. So I call and ask them, hey, is there anything that motivates the seller that we might need to be aware of? Do they need a lease back? Are they building a home? Could there be possible delays?
Right.
I dig into questions. Do they have animals we need to be aware of? Because my fear is letting out an animal. So when we go show a property, I want to know, are there cats? Are there dogs? Sometimes there's not private remarks in the MLS. So that's my red flag. Okay, call just to make sure.
Or your client's allergic to the cat or dog dander.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I've actually had clients like that say, no, I can't see any houses with cats. So when I call that listing agent, they pick up. I say, hey, this is Keri. I'm showing your property tomorrow. My buyer, they're fully pre-approved. I can send you their pre-approval ahead of time if your seller would like it. There was so-and-so lender. They don't have a property to sell. I kind of just go over the highlights as well.
Yep.
Then when they get my offer, they've already heard that, because I put that all into the offer package when I submit that for my buyers. I want them, the agents, to know and communicate that to their sellers. Hey, we've got a pre-approved buyer coming in. The rent's up in a month and a half, so they're motivated. They got to be out. So they're not coming in just to breeze through. They're coming in with the intentions possibly to buy. So that agent then can tell me, hey, listen, we just got the tile redone in the bathroom. It's not even on MLS yet, but definitely make sure you point that out. Or I'll ask, are there any upgrades that I should be aware of that couldn't fit in the MLS? You know, what should I...
Well, I think you did it on the lease back is actually sort of popular right now because these people are building. A lot of them are moving to a new build, and they might need it for 2 more months, might need it 4 more months. You know, the build's never on time.
Right.
And to know that when you make the offer, say, hey, my buyers have no problem with you leasing it back.
Absolutely.
They might be offering less money, but the other person didn't say that.
Right. And by communicating with the listing agent, you can find those tidbits of information out that is so critical. Because now a lot of people go in, it's 30 days to close. If that seller has lived there 30 years, that is a lot of memories and a lot of packing up they've got to do. And when you open a closet, the closet doesn't stop. You know, it just keeps growing stuff.
So this mindset of communication, which is because you're talking about, you know, when I've talked to people that have been in the business 20 years, this is second nature to them.
Yes.
You've only been doing it not even 36 months yet.
Correct.
But yet this communication piece is huge. And I've seen it live. I've sat and listened to these conversations go on between real estate agents. This is vitally important, especially right now.
Yes.
With low inventory, you're still getting multiple offers. It may not be 20, but you're getting 3 or 4 or 5.
Right.
And you're sifting through this, and this communication is key in placing that offer for your thing. Is this something that came, again, second nature, or something you've learned in your sales in corporate America and structuring that investigation that you talked about?
A little bit of
earlier?
both. So corporate America, you can, you know, I learned that you have to communicate. If you don't, when you say you're going to do it, somebody else, they know, like they're waiting for you. So, you know, when I was with XPO Logistics and I had 700 customers almost underneath my huge bucket of customers, if they expected something from me, they needed to get it exactly when they were expecting it. So communication is critical. Even if something delays you that you can't get them that, I would always email or send a phone or like put a phone call together, a quick 5-minute Zoom conference call or something, just so that they know I haven't forgotten about you. I know what you need, and your priority is my priority. And so always time blocking and knowing exactly what you have to do that day is so critical.
When you're, buyer or seller, you could be on either side, but how important is the foreshadow to your client what, you know, may happen? Hey, or you're in the initial negotiation, initial offer, they may counter. We can ask for that.
Correct.
I don't, you know, they may or may not accept it, but this is what we'll come back with. Or even just, you know, the inspection foreshadowing of things that might come up. What's your mindset on that, and how important is that? Because at the end of that 30, 45 days or whatever that buying process to the closing table, it's that piece right there is whether you're going to get a referral or not, right? That your whole reputation is on that. When they look back and go, wow, that was so great, or, oh my God, that was horrific. We were stressed out the whole time. How important is that piece? And kind of go through what are like some key things that you like to foreshadow on any deal, buyer or seller, that's important in any real estate transaction?
Oh, it's critical. The inspection is so critical. I always invite the buyers, of course, to the inspections. That's so important for them to hear what the inspector finds. Do you want
their dad with them, or?
I don't care who comes.
Okay.
Bring anybody. I love meeting the family. I love seeing and hearing different mindsets. Even on my buyer consultations, where I sit down with my buyers. You
just charm them and give them a smile. Keep dad occupied.
And you want to know what that relationship is. So if dad is super handy, dad can be on your side because... Yes, because, right. Hey, Dad, do you know how to fix baseboards? You know, there's some scratching from old dogs, you know, like that or cats, you know. Are those things that are really going to be critical? Those cosmetic items.
Because they're likely to say, well, that just costs, $10 for a new
Right.
baseboard, and I'll paint it and we'll put it on there in 15 minutes.
Exactly.
Where the inspection may make it look like it's a huge event.
Exactly. So, that's why it's so important. I always say, let me know what time you want to get to the inspection, but the most critical part is that we're there for the end so that we can have the full overview from the inspector. The reason I like to do that is so that, one, we don't spend too much time asking the inspector questions during the inspection because they have more inspections to go to. So they can focus and not miss things.
Right.
We want them
be distracted.
Exactly.
Start a conversation over here and not see something. Yeah.
Exactly. So while the inspector is inspecting, I'm walking the house, each room, with the buyer and everyone who they bring. And we're talking about, what are you going to do in this room? Do you like this wall where it is? When he goes in the attic, I'm marking it down on my tablet. I'm like, okay, when he goes in the attic, I'm going to remind him to see if he sees any load-bearing walls that might be of issue. Of course, that wouldn't change that they need a contractor to do that, but it would just, help them understand what they might be able to do. So walking through those rooms, measuring, understanding what the house is made of physically, knowing what asbestos shingles are in the older historic areas that we have around Jacksonville, knowing how to fix those, knowing how, what the difference is between galvanized, copper, PVC plumbing, knowing why it's important to have a sewer scope. So a lot of the times while the inspector is doing his job, I'm explaining to them what he's looking for and why he's pulling that outlet off to look at the wiring in the back and see if it's grounded and see, what's back there. Because insurance during this inspection period is when we get your insurance. So if there are any issues that we would have to also ask for in the repairs.
Are you starting to move your insurance quotes up earlier in the transaction? We used to wait a week before, go get insurance, not a big deal. Insurance is now a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Because that 4-point that you get from your home inspector and the wind mitigation, insurance is going to tell you, nope, you need a new roof. Nope, you've got to get that piping fixed. Nope, you can't have that hot water heater now. So those are critical items. You can't wait to the last week.
All right, so I got a real estate agents listening to this going, oh my God, did she just go to college for being a general contractor? Because that's what it sounded like, okay?
And no, I always use the disclaimers.
What did you do to feel as confident as you did expressing that? In having those conversations, are you spending some time with the home inspector or going to their lunch and learns? Where are you picking up a lot of those things that they're doing so you're able to translate that to your client?
Great question. I go to every single lunch and learn they all offer. They give so much information every time they show up at our office or every time they're at, a title company. When I see that, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great topic. I got to go.
Right.
Because in real estate, you have to constantly be learning. I am learning something new every day, every single day. I just learned that there are snake prevention plans that you can have if you live on ponds or runoffs and things like that.
Right.
So you have to keep that mindset open that you're always willing to learn. And one of the things that I've always done is show up early to the inspection, ask them, did you find anything in the permits? Do you see any issues that you foresee to start with here that I might need to be aware of? And listening to every single one of those inspectors has really helped me just learn so much about houses.
Right.
And another great thing that's taught me so much is my mom's been in real estate since 2008. So she has shared so many wild stories and shown us so many different things.
Right.
And so hearing what she had to overcome, in 2008 was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Different ballgame. She would tell me stories about how she'd have a $62,000 listing that lasted a year and a half.
Yeah.
Or
you got squatters in there.
Right.
Or, all sorts of. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I've run into squatters as well. So.
How, just to give and if you want to call out your go-to inspector, that's fine too. That's up to you. But how, talking to them, it's so important now that business, back when your mom probably started, they just gave you the report and you dealt with it. Now these guys have the inspectors have come around to be a little more customer service friendly,
Yes.
and trying to ease, because their job is to point out every little scratch or light plate or whatever
Yes.
that might only cost a couple dollars to fix, but it's on the list, and then, and the list looks long, but really 99% of those things are a couple $100 and they're fixed, right?
Right.
That how important is to have that home inspector? Well, one, have somebody or one or two guys that you're using all the time and build a relationship as from a real estate agent standpoint.
Yes.
But that actually knows how to communicate that to the buyer.
Absolutely. So I work with many different inspectors, and what I do is when we go under contract, I'll send out 3 and rotate them every time, just so that not one person is getting all of the business, or they can. I let my customer pick, because I tell them, please go to the websites, look at their reports, look at what you like, and then come back to me and we can talk about that. And most of the time when they're first-time home buyers, they're like, well, what's the difference? I say, okay, let's get on their websites together.
Right.
You need to be able to fully understand and get the report quickly, and then be able to read through it. And I love the ones that are hyperlinked, where you can click on the 1.2.2 and it takes you right to the page. So that they understand where the critical items are, and they color code it. So it's usually blue, this orange color, and red. And I say, we're going to first start with the red, because those are going to be, in the inspector's eyes, the hot items. They could be insurance issues, but then we're going to look at all the yellows, and then we're going to look at all the blues. And most of the time, the blues are the kind of honey-do list for you as a moving-in buyer. But
Standard house stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we still need to take a look at them, because if there is anything that could potentially be a big cost down the line, we want to know that ahead of time.
How do you handle the difference between the 51 last year? And I mean, you may not know the exact number, but approximately what percentage of those were the new construction? Because obviously that's where most of our inventory here is.
Right.
Or at least last year anyway, as our inventory grows right now. But last year, anyway, what percentage of your buyers are going new versus existing?
Great question. So I'd say probably last year about 15% went new construction.
Oh, okay. All right.
And this year alone already, I've had 4 go new construction. One of the reasons they're going new construction this year is interest rates.
The incentives are outrageous.
Absolutely.
That they're getting,
They're paying closing costs. They're able to get those interest rate down into the 4s, low 5s. So to be able to do that, buyers are... they are looking in a lot of different areas. And the most important thing is, how long is it taking me to get to work? Can I still get this brand new home, but make it to work in that 20-minute commute I'm used to? And
go back to, so relate this to the home inspection. Do you recommend them put an inspector on that new construction?
100% of the time. I always recommend it.
How many actually do you think take you up on that, or take your suggestion? Or are you very convincing in there? You're 100%.
I'm not 100%, but we're about 85%. Because the great thing is that buyers can also, on new construction, they have that 11-month walk with the builder again.
Right.
So I say, okay, if you don't get the inspection right now, at that 9 to 10 month mark, Keri's going to be calling you, and I'm going to say, when are we setting up that inspection?
Right.
So that you can find items that one of the contractors might have missed, or just different things that we need the builder to take care of for you, so that you're not running into these possible high dollar items in the future. I just had one, they did their 9-month inspection, and it might have happened over time, but there were nail pops on the roof, on the shingles. There were deteriorated shingles. So, those might have been dragged with the bag as they were getting it onto the roof. But those are things that insurance eventually will call out. Say they needed to sell in 2 years, they would have had to pay that money to get that fixed, and they would have never known.
Well, let alone have a leak and have to make an insurance claim. You don't want to do that.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And then turn it around, and because for those out there listening right now, buyers are finding, if you have a home that has had numerous claims on their policy in the last whatever years, and now you're trying to get an insurance policy on that house, even though you're a different person, it's still the same house, and the insurance company's finding reasons to give you a little rate.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to circle back a little bit, because what was the transition? I think it was XPO before you went to Keller. in 21. What was it that caused that break from corporate America? Or were you fed up with it? Or they reorganizing? What happened? And you just said, I need to go into real estate.
So great question. My role, I was a national account executive, and there were 4 of us on the team who handled about a quarter of the full book of business. So we managed the large third-party logistics companies like the Echo Globals, the C.H. Robinsons, a lot of those big names. And they had, like I had Transportation Insight, and they had tons and tons of customers underneath them. So when I'm working with the folks up here, we could still have 100 different things going on. Well, we know what happened in 2020, and logistics went through the roof. We were all so busy, and it was amazing because where a lot of people during the COVID era didn't have work to go to, I was
overloaded,
busier than I have ever been in my life. And thankfully, I had an incredible team, and I had a daughter. So things were a lot different, and I give so much. I think I've mentioned that at the beginning. Like, I give so much. So I have a very tough time with an on-off switch when I'm giving. And in logistics, it's 24/7. So to the point where I had a treadmill desk. Because, when I got off work, I had already walked 10 miles that day because I was walking the whole time while I'm on conference calls and I'm working and inputting contracts and all of that kind of stuff.
Now, the busyness because of COVID was because of a lot of things where the trucks couldn't roll, so they're rerouting and all these type of things are going on,
and
right?
A lot of people are ordering online. Stores are out of stock, so we were having to add new businesses that had never shipped before, adding them. We just had so much freight.
Interesting.
And drivers were getting sick. And so we were running into a lot of different things.
So you reached maximum, you're full.
Yes. So
you got a daughter.
Yep. It was a realization that I had one morning. It was a Saturday morning, and I'm sitting in her playroom. I'm on my computer. And she turns to me and she says, "Mommy, can we have a coffee party?" And I looked up and I said, "What'd you say to me, baby?" And she goes, "Well, you're drinking coffee a lot." And I drank decaf because I'm just hyper already. And so she was like, I just thought that we could have a coffee party." And I like closed my laptop. And I threw it across the room, and I just bawled. I just realized that she saw me only working, and
with a cup of coffee in your hand.
Right, and she thought...
We'll toast to that.
Cheers. And so she thought, wow, if I can give my mom a cup of coffee, then I get 100% of her undivided attention.
Wow.
And I turned to my husband, and he was like, "Yeah, you work a lot. I mean, you're putting in well over 80 hours a week, and you're up at insane hours of the day," because I'm that person. I want to get it done.
Make yourself available.
Yes.
To help.
And so it was an eye-opener, and things had to change, and I said, you know what? My mom has always wanted me to do this full-time with her. I love it. I've always been intrigued. Like, we've always talked about contracts and customers and things like that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And he was like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yep, I'm going to do it as long as you support me." Like, this is huge. You make incredible money.
Right.
You make incredible money in logistics. So to go from having a W-2 paying job every week.
Benefits,
salaries, bonuses out the yin-yang. I mean, to go from that to zero is petrifying.
Yep.
And so I've always been a planner. And so I decided I was going to start this process early. And I was going to get my ducks in a row. So first thing I started doing was when I was off work, I was off work. And I just had to change that mentality because we had just gotten so into the business during the COVID era. And so when I was off work, I was outside with my daughter. I'd leave my phone and my computer in the office. And I started transitioning that. And because I never want to leave a company and leave them hanging. So I had everything completed when I put in my full notice. And I've never gotten so many calls saying, what can we do to keep you? And, I love that. And I love
Give me
that so
6
much.
assistants.
Right. But it was something I needed to do for my family.
Right.
I could always go back to corporate America if I didn't love real estate, but I love real estate so much that I don't think I'll ever
All right,
go
so
back.
you go to real estate because you wanted free time.
No. I wanted
Okay.
to
You
run
knew
my
what you
business.
were actually.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So your mindset, knowing what your mom does, and obviously your level of passion, your being involved with your customer and communication, that takes up a lot of time too. So
Yes.
how do you differentiate that from being logistics and working 12, 14 hours or whatever or more versus in real estate? Because there's sometimes you're so busy juggling multiple listings. With 51 sold, you had multiple transactions
Yes.
going on at any one time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great question. So what I did was I sat down and I put a business plan to get together day one. And I knew I didn't know everything about real estate at first, but I sat down with Margaret Sherrill, with Keller Williams, and we had a
I
fantastic
assume your mom's
lunch.
at Keller Williams.
Yes,
Yeah,
my
okay.
mom's at Keller Williams
Yeah,
now. Yep.
yeah.
And so the reason I wanted to join Keller is because I've just heard about so much of the training, and the brokers there are absolutely incredible. I love just the knowledge that you can gain there and the collaboration. Anybody that you talk to will help you with something. And so I've taken that culture and I make it a culture with every agent I talk to because of communication. And so I decided from day one that I was going to create a business plan for myself. So I had broken down my business plan and I shared it with everyone at Keller Williams. And I said, is this feasible? What do you feel? Give me feedback. And everybody looked at it and goes,
Who's this agent with a business plan or
right,
first day?
Right. First day. Who's this agent with a business plan? Got a model in place. And I had never even heard of the Millionaire Real Estate book until I went to Keller Williams.
Right.
So then I read that book and I tweaked a few things. But it was incredible because we are not 24/7 if you want to have a life. And unfortunately, everybody thinks we have to be. So what I do is I set those expectations up front. I let my customers know I have a family. I sit down every night and I have dinner. We walk around the neighborhood to get those little wiggles out before we go to bed, and so if the conversations have to happen after 6 o'clock, one, I need to plan for it so that it's after bedtime. And two, is it something that can wait till 9 a.m. the next morning?
Right.
Or 8 a.m. I mean, I'm up at 4 a.m. a lot of times, so
Right.
it doesn't matter. But
Well, so you had, you're within 6 months, you capped the first year.
correct.
So at what point though, with all the things that a real estate agent does, did you realize, okay, because I imagine this happened very quickly for you, I can't do I don't have the time to do all the things, all those things that many people don't know that goes on in the real estate transaction, the behind the scenes stuff, what the transaction coordinators. At what point did you like, oh, hold on a second, I'm already full. I need to spin some of this stuff off.
Right. Great question. So May of last year, I got a transaction coordinator. I had 10 families I was working with at once. And I realized, but coming from corporate America, you are trained to have to put your documents in the system right away. You're trained when you get something in, you do it right then. I don't procrastinate. I do it right then. I procrastinate laundry if my daughter wants to play Legos at night. Absolutely. But I do not procrastinate a contract, negotiation. If somebody calls, I call them back. You can't wait on those things because it has to happen now.
It'll start to build up.
It will build up and build up and build up. And when I went May of last year, I realized I needed a transaction team to help me with the behind the scenes paperwork, because I can't pull over 4 times as I'm driving to a showing, or I can't pull over and sign into DocuSign and send that to a customer.
Yep.
And so when I did that, now it has freed me. That system, adding that system at the right time has helped me continue to grow my business. And
if you did not do that in May, how many transactions do you think you actually would have done with great success? And great success meaning that person wants to refer you because you did such a good job and spent so much time with them. To me, that's a successful transaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I had not added my transaction team and I had stayed at that pace, I'm sure I would have missed things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I would have frustrated someone. And that's what I didn't want to do.
Forgot to call someone back.
Correct.
New customer could have been
Exactly.
They already have a house. They need someone right now, and you don't call them right back. They're calling someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I instantly put that into place. I put that system into place. I hired a marketing team to help me with my weekly emails. I set up the
let's dig a little deeper for that, because those who are listening, because I think this is very important in a real estate agent's progression.
Yes.
To spin these off, you said you hired a marketing team.
Yes.
Did you put a bunch of people on payroll?
No.
So how did you do this?
I work with Sailor and Co.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped me pull together my entire brand. She helped me create and populate my newsletters, because you always want to be reaching out to your customers,
Top of
both
mind.
old, new, stay top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that was taking my time. And so
That needs to be done.
That needs to be done. That I did not want to falter, or I didn't want to take away from my personal time.
And those top of mind things, the news, those are not typically instant return on investment.
Correct.
Those are long-term plays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I never want to miss an anniversary. I never want to miss a birthday or anything like that. So having that system in place so that it'll automatically reach out to my customers is critical,
Mm-hmm.
because you're only one person. I'm fortunate in that I have my mom who can be at an inspection if I can't be there, or who can show property for me if I can't be in 2 places showing property, so we work together as a team, and it's exponentially has helped our business grow. And when I introduce my mom to my customers, I say she loves to be my silent partner. And I'm going to make her a shirt that says that, because she doesn't want to do the paperwork. And that's fine, because she's spent so many years doing it since 2008 that she loves being out and doing the things that are fun. And
When you're in that gap where you got 10 people that you were dealing with, even if you were dealing with 3 or 4,
right.
You've got, they want these people want to go see houses. These people want an open house at their house.
Right.
You got to get it ready. Then there's an inspection going on over here. There's an appraisal going on over there. Photos need to be done.
Exactly.
Whatever it is. Is mom your partner in this and covering you in a lot of these areas and helping you out, as any agent might not be their mom, but needs to team up with somebody,
Right.
and have that give and take thing, like, hey, you're going to cover my open house when I'm on vacation, and I'll cover yours when you're on vacation, type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, like I said at the beginning, real estate can feel like an island.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel like you are out there solo, running your own business, because you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to create those relationships. And that's why I love being on the Agent Leadership Council at Keller Williams, because I can meet all the new agents and let them know how I've grown my business by collaborating with other agents. And you have to take that time and realize, okay, I have this many hours in the day. I need to get these things done. What are the items that I can have someone else do that, I can step away from? because I never want to lose a customer or make them feel like they're not top priority when they really are.
Right.
So I always want one of us to be at an inspection. So if the buyer's going, I will be there. And if they're not going, my mom will go there just to make sure we are there and seeing the things and taking the pictures and looking and digging into it. So it's so beneficial. Because a lot of agents, we talk about collaboration, and it's so critical. It's not competition. It is collaboration, because you got to go on vacation.
Right.
If you don't mentally reconnect your mind with fun and being with your family and vacationing,
you're going to start a decline.
Right.
The burnout comes in, but then you start getting depressed because you're like, I'm working all this thing. Yeah, I've got a good checking account, and I drive the car I want to drive, and I live in the house I want to live, but there's so many other things I want to do.
Right.
Because when you do have a good checking account, then all of a sudden your horizon gets bigger.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, it is a cost to add a transaction team. Like, I have to pay a fee every time I use them, but they are helping me be able to help my customers more effectively.
I think every agent imagines themselves as being the most popular agent and everyone calling them. Whatever marketing you're doing, you want, obviously, the phone, the ring, or whatever. And we're going to get into your sphere of influence because you're local. So I know you're tapping into that, or I imagine you are.
Absolutely.
Yes. But you have to be prepared to, when that phone starts to ring at a certain level, that you don't just start scaling back your marketing because, I can't take on any more clients. You've got to be willing to invest a little bit in this, per transaction coordinator. Or I know some people believe you should hire, everyone has a little different opinion. You should hire an assistant first.
Yes.
There's, everyone has, and some put them on payroll if you're at that level.
Right.
Or, be in an office that has brokers that have support staff to help all the agents and take some of that stuff for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You realize that from corporate America, but you're in the leadership council around and you see other agents. They don't necessarily have that mentality. They want to do everything themselves. What are some ways I don't know if it's sitting down and obviously getting coaching and counseling would probably be the generic answer.
Right.
But you have to, at some point, let go.
Correct.
Right.
You have to. And, I have been very fortunate. I don't even know if they know that they've been mentors to me, but I have been very fortunate to get very close to some of the bigger teams here in Jacksonville. And, I love getting to pick their brains and seeing how they have come from a 1-2 person team to running some of the biggest real estate teams in the city is admirable.
Yeah.
If I said that correctly. But it's inspiring, and to see that they're still with their families and to see what they're doing. It's I don't want to sound cliche, but they've both said to me, follow the book. Follow the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. It'll show you where you get overwhelmed and you need to move to that next level. So first step, hire that transaction coordinator. Next step, the assistant or the buyer's agent, or, go through those. And the reason they say don't try to reinvent the wheel, yes, reinvent your own marketing. Yes, do those kind of things. But there have been so many agents that have gone through this. No matter what season of real estate we're in,
right?
They faced it.
Or you're in personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They faced it and they've overcome it. And this is where the success lies. And the best form of return has come from. And that's the goal, is so that you can continue to grow your business without falling every time. Because the wrong hire and you're falling. You're falling hard. And then you have to climb up. So instead of having to fall every time, make those decisions effectively. And, I have run a P&L since day one on my business, and which I'm sure is pretty shocking, but I'm that type of person where,
It's not surprising after having this conversation, but
but it's so critical to run your real estate business as a business. I love when newer agents call me and ask me, what was the one thing you did that you're so thankful you did? I opened my business account. What do you mean? I got a separate business credit card. If you have to pick the first thing you do, go separate your accounts.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have anything to do with real estate with personal.
Juggling your receipts and
Yes.
everything.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
all everything on that card was a business expense. So I
Bingo.
got it all listed right there.
Bingo.
Yeah.
If for some reason I use it on my personal, I don't even try. Whoops, that was my bad. I'm not even going to try to write it off, because I focus on everything has to be lined up with my business. And so, my transaction team also does coaching and development, and I have put together a 5-year business plan, a 10-year business plan, and a 20-year business plan.
You have too much energy.
And-
Yeah, you're out of control.
And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure I managed my time effectively. I set my family up for success, and my girls
All right,
see me.
I'm going to tap in. So since you've brought this up, this 5 and 10 year plan, because I was going to finish with this question, but I still want to talk about marketing with you.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself? Because 51 transactions, a lot of transactions, and whatever your goal is to increase that. I imagine, like anybody, you want to bump it up whatever percentage this year. Do you see yourself with one of these teams that you were just talking about? Is that something where you want to go because you like to coach and mentor? Where do you see yourself in that 5 and 10 year plan?
Absolutely. So that is part of my 5 and 10 year plan is to build a team where agents around me want to be developed to take that next level. And I know the goal is never to lose anyone off your team, but if I see someone who has spent 5 to 10 years with me and they say, Keri, I think I'm ready to develop my own team. Can you help me? I'll probably cry. I will be so excited to know that I've become that leader for them and that I can help them take that next step. Because as a leader, you always want to be planning for your person to grow. You want them to grow. You want them to hit those target numbers. You want them, and in real estate, I can still do that.
Right.
In corporate America, I always wanted to grow the ladder because I knew I could continue to manage people and grow people and bring this crazy energy. I don't know where I get, but bring my positivity and my energy to others and help them grow in the next level. And so that ideally is going to tell me that I have become incredibly successful in real estate is when I can
create other leaders, create other successful agents.
Exactly. Because I don't look at numbers, and I know that sounds funny, but I see it on my P&L. I see it all there. That's great. I focus on families. I focus on new buyers. I focus on what is their need and how can I help them? Because the more people I can help, the more my heart is fulfilled. And so the more that's how
I'm trying to think of Quicken Loans has, they call it, well, we now Rocket they call it an ism, and I forget what the first part is. Basically, doing the right things, the money will follow, and
Right.
that's the thing. I want to transition over to marketing.
Yes.
All right. So, local girl, had the conversation with your daughter, the coffee date there, coffee party. You're now thinking about your real estate business. You're going and getting your license. Prospecting and marketing. Someone made it a point to me the other day. They are different. Marketing being a long-term thing, like I put up a billboard.
Yes.
Prospecting being more towards, you're picking up the phone and making cold calls or everything. And so which I see is all under marketing, prospecting, and the long-term, all under the big umbrella of marketing. What did you initially do? Because you got off to a huge start, and you've continued to get faster and faster. And like I said, you already capped out in a month and a half last year.
Correct.
You were already capped out. Had a superior year. I don't know, where did the Jacksonville Business Journal rank you? You must have been in the top couple percent with nearly $20 million.
Yes.
As an individual. So, what was your plan initially? And I'd like to see how you evolve that plan to what you're doing today, because obviously marketing is a lot of trial and error. And then if you could tap a little bit, I'm going to kind of double down on this question. One of the big things that a lot of the agents say is you got to find out what is it that, like, what are you good at?
Yes.
Some people are, might be good at knocking on doors and they get a lot of response. Are good at the cold calls, so they just 10x that. What is your go-to marketing thing that you see the greatest return on?
Absolutely. So first thing I did was reach out to every single person that I knew. I sent text messages. I called, emailed, sent letters out to every single person I had their address for, just to let them know, hey, everybody, I've left corporate America, and now I have moved into real estate. I'm so excited. I can't wait to work with you all. Anything you need, I'm here for you. And I'm growing, and I want to learn everything I can. And so just literally, it was Facebook and Instagram. I started showing up on, as they all say, show up on the Instagram, on the gram, and which it's hard for me because I get so in the moment. So it's hard for me to remind myself, show up every day. So I am working Monday through Friday in real estate. And so I need to show all of my sphere and my customers and their sphere that I'm here.
Right.
So I did those three things: text messages, phone calls, sent out letters. Then I started digging deeper. Each person I'd talk to, I would ask, who do you know that might be buying or selling in the next year? Oh, I heard my neighbor might be. Oh, can I have their name and number? I'd love to call them. Or could you create a group text message? I'd love to reach out to them. Even if I can just sit down with them. If they're a 5-year plan, I can get them in my database and we can stay in touch. And so my communication style and my farming, and I don't like cold leads. I'm not a pick up the phone and dial to somebody I've never met or don't know if they even live at that address. So I would more so like to work with my sphere or sphere of the sphere or someone who relates to them or knows
your sphere's friend that you don't know. Yeah, but that's still a friend because they're a friend of a friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I reached out to any of my friends that knew businesses here or that have businesses here. I reached out asking what they need. Do they need, my twin sister is a teacher. So I would often bring coffees to her and her teachers in the grade and, just ask, is there anything anybody ever needs? Right. Whether it's crayons for their students. And I'd always send in little notes saying, thank you so much. Please refer me if you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell.
Do you think, a lot of people say people don't ask for the business.
You have to ask for the business.
Or remind them, you're asking for the referral. You're not asking necessarily them, but you're asking them to refer you to somebody, which is a polite way of asking them for the business without actually asking them for the business.
So everyone laughs at me, but it is so ingrained in me instilled in me because in corporate America, you're constantly having to ask for that business. You have to say before you leave their office, are you going to commit to this contract I'm going to send you this evening? Are you, and so what's the difference in real estate? When you ask them, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell in the next year or so? Or do you have a friend or family member interested in moving? Whether it's here in Florida or anywhere around the country, I can help them. So I have an agent pool that I work with all around the globe. I've referred someone to Puerto Rico. I've referred someone to Hawaii, which is still U.S., but it's far away. You got to travel over water. So, we have, and I really love that Keller Williams has so many offices around the entire globe because I can connect with someone if I don't know someone personally that's an agent there.
So dig deeper into what you were doing and what would you say in these emails? When you're interacting, where do you I think if you were to give the ABCs to a new agent,
yes,
which would you agree, confidence is a big, you're very confident.
Yes, you have to have confidence.
You have to have confidence. Did you have an advantage because of your corporate America experience? These people saw how detailed you were, how professional you were, that when you did ask them for business and now you're doing real estate, you're like, well, she must know what she's doing because that girl's all over it. Everything she does. Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to have confidence in yourself. And if you're in real estate and you need that boost, this is my pass to say, call me. I will help give you that boost because you've already taken the test. You want to be successful and there are ways to help you be successful. And I have always loved, like I've said before, helping others and finding ways to do that. And it's just been instilled in me. I have the confidence to ask those questions. I'm not scared. Majority of my business is referrals from my business I've had. And that's why exponentially you see that turn, because I'm still asking my first customer ever for business. I'm still asking my 10th transaction family for business. And I keep track of that. I keep tables, and I know who are my top 20% that is referring me. And I'm very excited to say that 60% of my business refers me.
Would you say, because part of my initial question was, what is your go-to thing? Your go-to thing is figuring out more ways to stay top of mind.
Yes.
Consistently just pouring value about whatever little thing to remind them that, hey, I'm Keri and I'm in real estate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so throughout the entire transaction, I let them know from day one that I'm going to be asking them, do you have anybody else that wants to buy or sell? Do you have any friends that you work with that are looking to possibly buy or sell? And so one time I had to go pick up a key and they weren't home and they had it taped to the door, but then they had a friend's name and number and said, we knew you were going to ask. So we had our friend's name and number on there, and I ended up helping them find a house.
That is awesome and speaks very loud of what everything that you just said.
Yes.
I mean, you are consistently reminding him of the referral. This is what I'm doing. Let me help somebody. Let me help somebody. Let me help somebody.
Absolutely. And, Keller Williams hosts the what we call an RE Summit, which is smaller than Family Reunion, but it's localized to Northeast Florida. And I'm actually going to be speaking on a panel in April on referrals and how you can constantly be loving on your sphere and constantly ask them for referrals.
So they're going to be in that crowd and they're going to say, oh, well, Keri, that's just too much. Is it?
No, it's not. It's our business.
Right.
You got to run.
Well,
it
if
like
you want to do $20 million a year, that's what you've got to do.
Right.
I mean, because I think we're all I know personally, we're the only ones really in our way.
Exactly.
Because if you start with that mindset that, if I keep asking for the referral, they're going to be. If you're doing the right stuff, obviously that customer to tape the key and the number on the door, they love you.
Yes.
One, they trust you because they taped the key to the door.
Yes.
But two, they're laughing because, and I'm sure you laughed when you saw. Keri's going to be reminding us to remind her friends that our friends that she does real estate.
Exactly. And it is the best compliment to your business to get a referral. It is so incredible. I just had an agent refer me from Orlando. I've sent customers down there to her, and she referred me to an agent who is in North Carolina that referred someone to me because she knows our business styles are very similar, and she trusts me, and those type of referrals are the best. I absolutely love that because most of the time when you go in and you have those conversations, sometimes they're not interviewing other agents because they trust that opinion.
Oh, that's the best thing is you have credibility already.
Exactly.
There because someone else has an experience with you for sure.
Exactly. And I help new agents realize a 25% referral fee that you're paying that agent that gives you that lead is the best money ever spent.
Right.
Why? Because one, it's almost guaranteed business. 75% of a commission that you would have never had, so it wasn't on your radar, wasn't on your plan, so it can just push you above your business plan. And two, now you've got a new connection that has all new people in their sphere.
And moving into your area because now they're in your sphere, and now hopefully you're going to get that referral from them that you may not have ever had because you didn't get that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm selling a property right now, and the dad said, I'm buying a house from you soon, Keri. Like, it's convinced me I'm not using anybody else. You've been such a dream come true to help us in this time of selling our daughter's property that I want to use you when we're ready. And we're coming down to Florida. I can't wait. Let's go. So, those are the things that when dad gives you the green light, you're like, that makes me so happy.
All right, I want to finish up with these two things. New agents coming in now, which Keller Williams often brings on a lot of new agents because they do have they're known for that and the training and the infrastructure. What are two or three things that new agents with this current market need to be doing? And actually, I don't even know. Let's just scratch the new agent. What are any agent in this current market need to be doing right now?
focus on your business. Focus on continuing to market more than you're used to, getting out there, showing properties, creating that reel that you didn't feel like creating, and writing that thank you letter that you didn't think you had time to write. But then also not compromising your personal time. I will never post that I'm available 24/7. I'm just not. I love having dinners with my family. I love, going to the park with my daughter. So don't compromise that, but realize that in order to run your business and to get to the next level, you need to have your goals on paper. You need to follow through. Constantly be lead generating. If you're not lead generating, which means calling your sphere, touching base with people, asking for those referrals every day. I have a 2-hour block that does shift throughout the day because of things. But I'm constantly focused on that, where I'm always setting those next appointments.
You're dedicated 120 minutes a day. You're dedicated to that prospecting.
Absolutely. And so stay on top of it like it's a business. Don't let all the clutter out there and all the social media. Number one, I don't spend hours going through social media because that's a time waster. So you've got to focus on your business, growing your business, and thinking about how can I reach my next goals while the market is shifting. You've got to make those changes with it and get to the next level.
And reach out to because you're willing. You say it right on your
Absolutely.
website that you like to pour into people. That if they're listening to this and they got questions, or how do I set my goals, or hey, seeing what you're doing, that you're willing to have a cup of coffee with them and decaf and
Exactly.
All right.
You don't want me doing cartwheels.
Reach out to Keri. Last question, because of the NAR situation here this last week, I really want to make it a point on the podcast to talk about the value of an agent. And to me, nothing more shows the value of an agent is when a deal blows up, and because an agent's already being proactive, pulls it back in.
Correct.
And like you said, the cheers on the other end of the phone, the tears come out because they thought they lost the deal, but because of your professionalism, experience, and knowing where to go to solve the problems. Do you have one on the top of your mind, a little story that you could share with us?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So I recently had a customer that had to fight to buy a home. And litigation and everything.
Oh my goodness.
There was a lot that went on, and so
Litigation between the buyer and seller?
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
Correct. It was probably the most stressful thing anybody could ever go through. And I went on to do my deposition, and the most important thing that I wanted everybody to remember was the buyers love this house, and the reason they're doing this is because they love the house and why the house was special and what they love so much about the house. And, there was no ill intent, and it was just so exciting for everybody because this buyer is now buying this house.
So just to give everyone a little background, the seller wanted to back out and not sell the house to them? Is that kind of what started to happen and break the contract?
Correct.
Okay.
There's just a lot that went on, and so there were two options, and they ended up going towards the litigation because they loved the home. They just loved the home, and it turned out to be a great ending story. So the sellers were able to get what they wanted, the buyers were able to get what they wanted, and it was wonderful. And that was a very tough time for everyone because there were a lot of roadblocks that we faced, and there was a lot of different things that we all had to overcome, but staying positive and being able to make sure that everybody knew everyone was trying to make everyone happy was what was important. And that did come to fruition, and it was wonderful. So to be a part of that was absolutely stressful, but I had the brokerage behind me and the guidance and the number one priority.
And you stepped up and you were involved with the deposition and everything to represent and explain to the parties that be what was going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it helped everyone. I hope, I wasn't the only one involved, but I hope that it made an impact knowing that there was no ill intent and that they wanted to get to that next level and they wanted to buy the home. And so it made everybody, just be able to get to that next step. And I can't wait to be at that closing table next week with them because it's probably going to make me cry while I'm sitting there with them because
to finally be over,
but just beginning, because it is just the beginning of their beautiful home, to start making memories in this home, for them to have kids in this home, for them to grow and become a family in this house, and to know that I helped them. They said to me already, they were like, we're telling everybody in our family and all our family down south and all our family up north that if anybody ever needs a realtor, it's you.
Well, there's, with everything going on, the importance of top agents, and that you had, this is probably new to you.
Right.
I've heard this going on where, a seller wants to back out. And now there's a battle over the contract, not about who wants to pay so much or this, that, or repair so much, but actually back out. And these people are committed.
Right.
We do see this because the people selling it think they can just go buy another home and not realize there's low inventory and they don't find the home, or maybe they don't get the home they want, but they signed a contract with somebody whose heart's set on moving into this home.
Absolutely.
So there's obviously emotions involved there, but it just, to accent the importance. If these two people did not have representation, or there was only representation to the seller, as many people think the buyer's agents are all going away, they're not going away.
Oh, no.
If you weren't representing the buyer and the seller did not, and have the two agents involved here to get this done in one way, shape, or form, or obviously, if the buyer walks up to the selling agent, where would this be? They probably would have convinced them to walk away. But because of your representation, you gave them their options. This is what you can do, and obviously they chose the legal option.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, and everybody is happy in this scenario. It worked out fantastic. It got the sellers what they wanted. It got the buyers what they wanted. So it worked out beautifully. And I hope that there's going to be a lot more moments that don't go that extreme, but that I constantly am getting the opportunity to help clients, because there is so much that goes on in the background. There's so much that listing agents and buyers agents, we are one and the same. And as a transaction broker, I have worked with the listing and the buyer on the same transaction, and I make it known that our goal is to get both of you to that closing table.
Right.
It is so imperative that we work together and everybody knows what's going on, and that
someone wants to sell and someone wants to buy. So how can we just make this happen and everyone be happy?
Absolutely. We make it so transparent. We make sure we do what the sellers are trying to do. We make sure the buyers get in there in time, or whatever there's 1,000 different scenarios. So acting on your feet, knowing how to constantly be shifting in one direction or the other is just so critical. And
especially now, I've said it numerous times, every loan right now has extra puzzle pieces.
Yes.
Just as the buying, selling, is that, what needs to be repaired or not? Does someone need to lease back? There's all these extra puzzle pieces that go on in every transaction that's going on currently right now at the moment. This stuff is going on all the time. It's not as simple as walking into the car dealership and say, yeah, I want to buy that car.
Right.
Let's agree on a price. 15 minutes later, you're in the finance booth and you have your payment and you're driving out an hour later.
Exactly.
It just doesn't happen that way.
Exactly. Like I added up on my cell phone just the other day, I had 67 calls, either going in or out in one day. And that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
No conversation is usually 20 seconds.
No.
So
we could go on for hours. I always try these initial ones to get everyone's background, but I'd love to reach out to you. Who knows, in 6 months, next year, find out where you're at and come back and actually talk more. Maybe start building that team and that sort of thing and what you're doing there.
Absolutely.
But Keri, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was a really great show, and I hope the energy came right through these mics and into everyone listening or watching. So.
I hope so too. Like I say in all my marketing, don't wait, call Keri. So don't wait, call me today if you have any questions, whether you're a real estate agent or you're looking to buy or sell.